Have you ever pondered about the relationship between global conflict and money supply? It's not something we often think about, is it? Yet history has shown us time and time again that the two are inextricably linked. Consider this. Wars, especially those on a global scale, impact economies in profound ways. They necessitate massive spending, the likes of which can drastically alter the money supply. This, in turn, can lead to everything from inflation to economic recessions and even depressions. Furthermore, the aftermath of such conflicts often sees an economic restructuring, sometimes on a global scale. Countries that were once economic powerhouses can find themselves struggling, while others rise from the ashes, their coffers filled with the spoils of war. As we dive into the depths of history, we'll find fascinating insights into the monetary consequences of the world wars. It's a journey that will take us through the past, the present, and even offer a glimpse into an uncertain future. The first global conflict, World War I, had a profound impact on the world's money supply. The financial landscape was forever reshaped as countries grappled with the enormous costs of war. To finance this unprecedented global conflict, nations took drastic measures. Many suspended the gold standard, freeing their currencies from the shackles of gold and allowing for an increase in money supply. Governments around the world borrowed heavily, issuing war bonds that were eagerly snapped up by patriotic citizens and the banking sector. For the first time in history, entire economies were mobilized for the war effort. In the United States, for instance, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 had just established a flexible currency system, allowing for the expansion of money supply. This proved instrumental in financing the country's entry into the war in 1917. Across the pond, the Bank of England played a similar role, becoming the banker and debt manager to the government. The bank's ability to issue notes against government debts allowed Britain to sustain its war efforts. But this flood of money had consequences. As the war raged on, the increase in money supply led to rampant inflation. Prices soared as the value of money plummeted. The German mark, for instance, suffered a devastating hyperinflation. By 1923, a loaf of bread cost hundreds of billions of marks. The economic turmoil further fueled social unrest, setting the stage for a second, even more devastating conflict. In the aftermath of the war, nations struggled to restore their economies. The gold standard was gradually reinstated, but the genie was out of the bottle. The world had seen how easily money could be created, and how devastating the consequences could be when it was created without restraint. World War I set a precedent, showing that in times of war, money supply can spiral out of control. It served as a stark reminder of the economic consequences of global conflict, lessons that still echo in our financial systems today. World War II, a conflict even more extensive and devastating, further influenced global money supply. It was a war that swallowed the world whole, leaving in its wake a financial landscape that would be forever changed. Let's delve into the heart of the matter. To fund the war efforts, nations on both sides of the conflict were forced to increase their money supply drastically. This was done through a complex mix of issuing war bonds, printing more currency, and borrowing heavily from both domestic and international sources. The United States alone saw its money supply quadruple during the war years, a trend mirrored by many of the other warring nations. But such a massive influx of money into the economy had far-reaching consequences. With more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices inevitably shot up, resulting in rampant inflation. In countries like France and Italy, the inflation rate soared into double digits in the immediate post-war years. This price instability wreaked havoc on the economies, eroding people's purchasing power and creating widespread uncertainty. The war had left the world in ruins, and the financial rebuilding process was a Herculean task. Countries had to grapple with a mountain of war debt, while at the same time trying to revive their war-torn economies. The Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 was a significant step in this direction, setting up a new global monetary system and establishing institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to aid in economic recovery. But the scars of the war were deep, and the financial fallout was felt for decades. Even today, the decisions made during and after World War II continue to shape our global financial system. The repercussions of World War II on money supply were felt around the globe. shaping the economic landscape of the post-war world. As we turn the pages of history, we're reminded of the profound impact that such conflicts can have on our economies and the importance of striving for a world where peace and prosperity can thrive. The question now is, how might a potential World War III affect our money supply? Let's not shy away from contemplating the potential monetary consequences of a Third World War. It's an uncomfortable thought, yet it's important to understand the possible economic scenarios, taking lessons from the previous world wars. In the event of another global conflict, a significant impact on money supply is almost certain. Following the precedent of the first two world wars, governments would likely resort to printing more money to finance the war effort. The immediate consequence: inflation. The value of money would decrease and prices would skyrocket. The global economy, already interconnected, would face a level of disruption unseen before. Trade routes could be severed, leading to shortages of vital goods and raw materials. This scarcity would further fuel inflation, creating a vicious cycle of economic instability. But the aftermath of a Third World War could be even more devastating. Consider the economic fallout from World War II. It took decades for some nations to fully recover. The cost of rebuilding infrastructure, supporting veterans, and paying war debts led to long-term economic strain. The impact on the global money supply was felt for generations. In a Third World War scenario, the world would be grappling with not just physical and human devastation, but also a potential collapse of the global financial system. The widespread use of digital transactions and the global nature of modern banking could mean a cyber warfare front, with potential for catastrophic damage to our financial systems. The long-term effects on the global economy could be profound. We could see a shift in economic power, as happened after the previous world wars. Countries less affected by the war may emerge as new economic leaders, while those heavily impacted could find themselves in a struggle to recover. While we hope for a future without war, it's crucial to understand the potential economic consequences of global conflict. The lessons of the past underscore the importance of striving for peace and stability in our global community. We must remember that the cost of war extends beyond the battlefield, affecting our economies and indeed our everyday lives. The world wars, while devastating, provide us with valuable lessons about the relationship between global conflict and money supply. In the grand tapestry of history, World War I and II stand as stark reminders of the havoc that global conflict can wreak, not just on humanity, but also on the world's financial systems. These wars influenced the money supply in ways that were both profound and far-reaching, setting a precedent for how future conflicts might impact our global economy. Let's take a moment to revisit these key points. World War I, that tumultuous period from 1914 to 1918, marked a significant turning point in the history of money supply. The participating nations, in a bid to finance their war efforts, increased their money supply dramatically. This led to inflation, and in some cases hyperinflation, creating economic instability that had repercussions for years to come. Fast forward to World War II from 1939 to 1945. The financial fallout was no less severe. Nations were once again forced to ramp up their money supply to fund their military endeavours. The aftermath of the war saw a restructuring of the global financial system, with the Bretton Woods Agreement paving the way for new monetary policies and systems. And what about a potential Third World War? It's a chilling thought, but one that merits consideration, given the financial implications. The impact on money supply would likely be drastic. We could see a surge in money printing as nations scramble to finance their war efforts. This could lead to inflation and potentially economic instability on a global scale. But it's not all doom and gloom. The lessons we've learned from the past can guide our actions in the future. If we understand the relationship between war and money supply, we can take steps to mitigate the financial impact of any future conflicts. This might involve implementing robust monetary policies, fostering economic resilience, and promoting peace and diplomacy over conflict. In this context, history is not just a record of past events, but a treasure trove of lessons that can help us navigate the future. The world wars, for all their devastation, have provided us with invaluable insights into the intricacies of global finance. They've shown us how conflict can disrupt money supply and how this disruption can ripple out to affect the global economy. In conclusion, the world wars have taught us that war and money supply are intrinsically linked. They've underscored the importance of economic stability in times of conflict and the need for prudent financial management. As we look to the future, let's remember these lessons. Let's strive to create a world that values peace over conflict, stability over turmoil, and prosperity over deprivation. As history has shown us, war and money supply are intrinsically linked. Let's hope we can learn from the past and steer our global economy towards a future of peace and stability.